In 2005, the Glazer family purchased Manchester United, and 17 years later, in 2022, the family announced that they were in official sales process. Now, in the sales process, we have seen a lot of discussions between the possible sale to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, which happens to be the richest man in the British Islands. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe is also the owner of the chemical company Ineos. And the other party that is interested in buying Man United is the Qatari family, the Qatari royal family, I think, Sir Sheikh Jassim. And Sheikh Jassim seems to basically have unlimited amount of wealth and money, and he's seen to be the favorite in the process. But still, this is a very vague process, and we have no idea of who's actually gonna be able to buy the club, or even if the club is going to be sold. But for you as an investor, is this an interesting idea to invest in, or should you avoid? So in this video we're gonna have a look at the details and see if it's worth investing in it or not. So Manchester United, as we speak, sits around 3.6 billion in market capitalization. And this number, you have to remember, is much less than the number at which Chelsea Football Club was sold to Todd Bowley last year. And that's interesting because although that Chelsea is a big club, especially a really big club in a big city, London, despite all that, Chelsea is nowhere near as marketable as Manchester United, nor historically or in the future, I believe, at least in the near future. And we know that you can see on the social media interaction, the brand values and all those kind of interesting numbers that Man United should be valued, at least in my opinion, 50 to 60% more than Chelsea. So therein is also the problem with the current sales process, because the rumors are that the Glazers are not going to sell below 6, 7, 8 billion US dollar. And if the market cap is at 3.6 now, and the bids are around, I mean, the rumors have been going around between 4.5 to 5.5, maybe 6 billion, but I don't think so. So there is the problem, that the Glazers are simply, I don't think they see the possibility to gain those extra billions from the bidder. And also one additional interesting fact is that if you go back a couple of years to 2025, this whole debacle with the Super League. And the Super League was the idea that all of these big clubs like Real Madrid, Manchester United, Barcelona, Chelsea and so on would form a new league together, with much higher marketing potential and revenue potential for all the big clubs. And that kind of league would recognize a bit, be similar to the American NBA and NFL. But the Super League didn't happen, at least for now. So you could say that the fans won the round one, but there's still fight going on in the backgrounds, I believe. So with the Super League, if that happens in the future, you could easily see a valuation of these kind of big clubs like Real Madrid, United, Barcelona going close to 10, 15 billion US dollars. So there is the problem also, that the Glazers probably know a lot about this process. And why would you sell the club now at 4.5, 5.5, 6 billion? When there is possibility for a 10, 15 billion US dollar valuation in, let's say, 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years at most. So now your question is probably, okay, I mean, if it's unrealistic to get that kind of 10 billion valuation as we speak today, why are they even in a sales process? Why do they bother with all this trouble? Well, there is a really interesting move from the Glazer family that I would call it's a 4D chess move. And these people, I mean, no matter what you think about them in terms of how they potentially destroyed one of the biggest football clubs on the planet, but no matter what you say in that kind of sporting sense, on a business point of view, these people are really savvy. And you could say that most probably before the sales rumors were engaging last year, the club was valued at roughly 1.7 billion US dollar. And you have to remember that Manchester United is in a dire need of complete infrastructure overhaul. A lot of different clubs have either upgraded their stadiums or built a new one, like Tottenham Hotspur. And you know that the Tottenham Stadium is now, I think it costs around 1 or 1.2 billion US dollar. So how is Manchester United, with let's say £500 million in debt, or let's say $600-700 million in debt, going to be able to finance a stadium and infrastructure improvement that will most likely cost at the minimum 1.5 billion US dollar, when the whole, let's say, enterprise or the company is valued currently or was valued at the time at 1.7 billion US dollar. Where one easy way to do it, or at least a smarter way to do it, is actually to engage in a dishonest sales process where the Glazers are not really actually going to sell the club, but the whole idea from the beginning was to increase the share price and increase the market cap of the company, maybe in above 4 billion and let's say 5 billion ideally, which they are, still a bit from, but if the stock price goes to 28, 29, and it's been close to those numbers previously when the rumors were in, then you're starting to have a valuation of 5 billion US dollar. And if you're going to finance a loan, especially in this kind of environment, you're going to get much more favorable loan terms from the big banks. And then you can basically go forwards with your plan of investing in the new stadium or upgrading the old one. So this is, in my opinion, has always been the plan from the Glazers. Unless some party, like let's say Sheikh Jassim or another like really rich individual like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, or a really big company like Apple goes in and gives them like stupid amount of money for the value of the club, let's say in excess of 8-9 billion, let's say 10 billion. In that case, maybe the Glazers would say, okay, if the valuation today is at close to 10 billion, okay, we can sell it. But if they get 6 billion now, then they will always think about the possible 10-15 billion 5-6 years from now. So that is, in my opinion, the sole reason why the Glazers actually are officially dragging out this, because in the beginning they said that in the first quarter of 2023 the sales process would be finished. Then they post forwarded it again to just before the end of the season in summer of 2023 the process would be finished. And now, the next season is gonna start in a couple of weeks and they still haven't sold the club. So in my opinion, there's a bit of, this shows that there's a lack of understanding from the supporter side, because they have always shown to not really understand the business side of things, and they just follow what the Glazers say on a face value. And this is the reason in this kind of misunderstanding between the Glazer family and the supporter base. And that has led to a lot of friction over the past 15 years and a lot of protest, and so this is not good for the club in terms of sporting point of view. But as an investment, so you could argue that should you invest in this company? Well, in my opinion, there's two ways to look at this. If you believe that the Glazers are actually honestly going to sell the club, then maybe it's a good idea, because you could say that as a current valuation that the stock price is at $22, and you can say that the market cap is 3.6 billion. If the sale's gonna happen today, you are probably talking at the minimum 5.5-6.5 billion US dollar. So the stock price is going way above 35 US dollar. So there is possibility, if the bid goes through and they are really honest with selling the club, sure, this could be a good idea, because you can probably almost double the money in few months. But the problem for me is that I don't believe they are actually gonna sell the club, unless, as I said previously, they get a really stupid bid of 10 billion US dollar as we speak, which I don't think will happen. I haven't seen any party being able to justify 10 billion US dollar purchase of a club that barely makes any money right now, and is also in need of 1.5 billion US dollar investment immediately. So there's simply no business case for buying a club at those kind of prices. And this leads me to think that my final conclusion is that Manchester United won't be sold, and the valuation of the company is probably going to stick around between 3 to 4 billion on the markets. But again, this is not investment advice. I just shared my opinion on the interesting case. This is a bit of a different kind of investment case than the ones that I previously talked about, where I'm looking at the companies from the, let's say, technological side, like Neo, AMD, or Intel and Nvidia. But I think this was an interesting case study to look at from more other kind of different segments of the market. So thank you for watching, and please make sure to subscribe, and see you in the next one.